you begin on an artist on a Judge Dredd, and how do you come from Judge Dredd to Walking Dead? With this,
how do I come to it? About 15 years of hard work. It's just you never know where your career is going to go. I felt very lucky and very excited and very privileged to be working on Judge Dredd, let alone everything else I've done. And along the way you meet all these writers and artists and everything, and I just happened to meet Robert Kirkman along the way, and it's a great example of somebody you meet many years ago and you think nothing else of it, and then all of a sudden he emails you out of the blue and offers you a project, which was obviously The Walking Dead.
First Walking Dead, the first French edition, it's the sixth first comics books on the first edition. You work with Tony Moore on the...
Well, no, I didn't do anything on the first. No. Tony, it was Robert and Tony, and I assume when they first started working on the book that they were going to do the whole thing. That was the idea. You'd obviously have to ask Robert or Tony exactly why they didn't work together anymore. I know Tony was struggling to do a monthly book, so obviously Robert needed somebody else, and I still to this day I've never really asked him why exactly he chose me out of everyone else he could have potentially asked, but I'm glad he did. But yes, he did. He just phoned me he emailed me and asked me if I was interested in working on this zombie book he had, and of course I'd never heard of it by this time. It wasn't exactly, obviously not as big as it is now, so he had to sort of send me the issues, and I read them and obviously liked them. I could certainly see the potential, and of course the other thing was he caught me, as we say, in between jobs as well, which was quite fortuitous.
Was it easy to become part of this adventure, and how do you work with Robert Kirkman in the beginning?
At the beginning it was slightly tougher than it is now, because I was obviously taking over somebody else's book, so I had Tony's original characters to translate into my style, and I'm a kind of an artist. I'm not willing to compromise my style. My reasoning, and if somebody asks me to do a book, they ask me because of how I draw. They don't ask me and then ask me to draw like something else, So, which was probably an issue with a lot of fans, because Tony and my style is very different. In fact, we're polar opposites. I draw very realistically using a lot of black, and my artwork can be very expressionistic, whereas Tony is much more cartoony. He concentrates on line and texture. I think the fans had a lot to come to terms with when issue 7 came out, and they could see the change of direction.
So, did you imply on the script? Do you talk to Kirkman to give ideas, or do you say
we pretty much leave each other to our own skills. Robert doesn't really get involved in how he thinks the book should look. That's where I specialise in, and Rob obviously specialising in the writing of the book. So I don't tend to interfere in terms of script production. We often talk about what Robert's got planned, though I quite like to read the scripts as a fan would read them. So unless we've sort of talked at length about the book in a previously or something like that, I tend to not know what's coming, which I quite like, because it's nice to read the scripts and be as surprised as the readers would be as well.
Do you have a desire to write something? Say, now I'm an artist, but I want to have my own serial, or?
No, I've got no desire to write particularly. I'm perfectly happy being, just an artist, I've just never had that sort of inspiration in me, and it's perfectly valid. People that write and draw, I've got nothing, nothing against that whatsoever. But personally, I enjoy the collaborative effort of a comic. In terms of, you say, something, sort of for myself. I mean, I am looking beyond The Walking Dead always to collaborate with people on other projects and other things, and also but I am very much now into keeping everything for myself now, so yeah, it's work for hire is of no interest to me anymore.
We know that for comic books there is a very short timing to give the painting to the editor. It's give you all the you're very free to your work, or there is many limits made on Walking Dead. They say you must not be to go out. Not be
no. There's I don't know. We're I hate this phrase, but we're a for mature readers comic, so we can pretty much do what we want within reason. The freedom that we get with a book like this is incredible. Pretty much, it's which is why we do it at Image Comics, and because they give us even more freedom rather than I think Marvel or DC would. So it's great.
Were you influenced by all the horror movies on zombie, like Romero's zombie saga? Or?
Yeah, I mean, I know. I'm not. The funny thing is, I'm not really a zombie fan in terms of. I'm not an obsessive fan anyway. I like horror movies, and within that, I obviously like the subgenre of the zombie movie. But really, I've only seen a handful of zombie movies. I've seen Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead. I've seen, Shaun of the Dead. I saw Zombieland, which I really enjoyed actually. I've probably seen a couple of other zombie movies here and there, but apart from that, it's that's it. So I can't sort of admit to being some great, zombie expert or enthusiast or whatever. So in terms of influence, I'm probably not that heavily influenced by the zombie genre per se. I know Robert was, he said in print that he was really influenced by, especially Night of the Living Dead, hence that's why the book's in black and white, as aside from that, from my point of view, I'm just influenced by many things. I'm influenced by real life. So.
At the same time, The Walking Dead is a story of people in the zombie world, but the interest is in zombie.
Yeah, that's it. That's the main thing of the book. It's the characters. It's not really the zombies. The zombies are basically the biggest MacGuffin in the whole series. The zombies are there just really to get the characters from one situation to another, and it's what's interesting about the book is how the characters relate to each other, how they cope in these sort of situations, and things like that. It's nothing. The zombies are just pretty much the background characters, and just acts as a catalyst for the characters to behave in certain ways.
For influence on your painting, you were influenced by another artist that give you your style now, or? You
Oh,
think?
I've got plenty of influences, but there's no one particular artist that has influenced me particularly for The Walking Dead. I mean, I do have plenty of of influences, Anyway, the first artist that I remember latching onto when I was really young is Michael Golden, because, and I'm not really sure why, because we used to have comics I used to read when I was really young were the Marvel Comics reprints that the British market used to do, and they were all printed black and white. So I don't know if that was a precursor to my love of heavy blacks and heavy whites, because I read a lot of black and white comics. But Golden for me was the first guy that I knew who really used that medium, that sort of really real black, real white stark, especially in Marvel Comics, especially in sort of it would have been the 70s. And I remember latching onto that and thinking, oh yeah, I really want to look for more artists like this, and really want to look for more work by this one guy, and ever since, I've discovered so many more, fantastic artists, almost too numerous to mention. I can go from Will Eisner through to Alex Toth, through to more modern guys like who are friends of mine as well, people like Duncan Fegredo and Sean Phillips, through to Tommy Lee Edwards, all amazing. I do kind of veer towards the more illustrative style of comic book artwork. I'm a big fan of American sort of 50s, 60s magazine sort of advertising, illustration, all that sort of stuff. I love film posters from that period. I'm quite a big fan of design in comics, actually. I might not show it in the actual in what I do, but there's probably not much opportunity to do that. But I do like that sort of stuff, and and I'm also a big fan of European bande dessinée as well. I do really like this stuff, and which is hopefully evident in what I do, and in projects. I did a European comic a couple of years ago for Soleil called Le Soufflet de Wendigo, and I hope to do many more projects for French comics as well in the future.
Now, with the publishing of the 12th tome of Walking Dead in France, there is the big bug of the TV show. Do you imagine what became Walking Dead for public, and the craziness about the TV show of Walking Dead?
I think things are going to get a bit crazy, because the viewing figures have been massive, and we seem to have got outside of the comics media, we seem to have got really good reviews, even outside the sort of the genre media, going into the more, what's the best word? Let's just say the non-genre media. The reviews have been virtually universally positive. So yes, I'm kind of preparing myself. But the funny thing is, I live and work in a small town in the UK called Shrewsbury, in a small rural county called Shropshire, which is probably about 45 minutes an hour further up from Birmingham, and it's all sort of strange to me, because it's obviously quite quiet there. There's none of this happens around me, so it's kind of surreal just to sit there working on the comic book while all this is going on, however many thousand miles over the Atlantic Ocean, So it probably keeps me nicely grounded, to be honest, sitting there working away in just my studio, just getting the comic done. And I think I'll always have that attitude. Just it's the comic is the main thing, and everything else is kind of nice, but it's not part of what I do. I'm there just to produce the comic. That's what I want to do, I want to tell a great story and hopefully keep it on track as well.
Do you have contact with the staff of the TV show that want to talk with you about what they were doing on the comic book?
I mean, I have contact with AMC. They don't really get in touch with me and ask me questions about the TV show. I think that, and to be honest, I think the more successful it becomes and the further it goes down the line, and the more hopefully seasons they produce, I think our involvement could arguably be even more minimal, because it will become its own different beast and just go off on its own. I think it will follow the comic, but it'll go off on tangents and things like that. And I think the comic will always be important to it. But on the other hand, I think it will also just become its own separate entity. So I don't anticipate suddenly becoming more involved. I'll probably anticipate becoming even less involved.
I don't know the number of the comic book in US.
I've just finished 79,
70?
so 80 will be the next one. 78 is actually out, so we're quite a bit, it's a bit tight at the moment. But
and you always have this desire to continue the series. I said yes. It's only the beginning, or
I'm kind of quite enthusiastic to perhaps break a record. I don't know what the highest number of issues done by one individual artist is, but it would be. I want to achieve at least 100, and I'm sure we'll achieve that plus. So I don't know exactly, but no, I see no end in sight, that's for sure. And I'll be on the book for as long as it carries on, and I'm unlucky because I'm fast enough to be able to do that, and fast enough also that I can do other projects. So it gives me I can step away from it occasionally. I think if I was always doing it and never anything else, I think it might drive me slightly insane. But because I can step away from it occasionally, I think it gives me that extra impetus to carry on with it afterwards.